All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Visible Kindness. And today I've got a new friend of mine, Brigham Blackham, also from Colorado, where I'm at. So I'm really excited to have another Colorado native here with me. And I'm excited because I love having guests I always learn from and get to become a better person from. And Brigham is definitely one of those people who's going to bring it to our episode today. Now, he has his own podcast called the Leveling Up Podcast, which you have to check out. He is an expert when it comes to building confidence through storytelling. And talk about the kind of people I want to have on Visible Kindness. That's the kind of people I like to have. Storytelling is a powerful experience that we have in our lives. Hearing stories and telling stories. And in our conversation before we recorded, he was giving me so much learning on the power of knowing how to do that. You're gonna, as soon as he speaks, you're gonna know, because I don't speak nearly as good as he does. I'm in the process. But what he does, he teaches, like, Brigham, I got to tell you, I've seen you in your episode, the stuff you've been teaching on. There are people at many different levels, but there are people that are very successful in their lives already. They're like top leaders with what they do, and it's very impressive to see what you're doing. And I have just literally benefited from how you're marketing yourself. It doesn't even feel like you're marketing. It's like I watch, I'm like, holy cow! I'm just learning from these bits and pieces of what you're doing in these events that you're teaching at. So I'm excited to hear from you on kind of on an in-depth level. Let's get into this, Brigham, and I'd love to hear more from you on what you do and where you're going.
Absolutely. Ed, thank you so much. This is such a privilege to be here on your podcast. Visible Kindness, guys, this is something that all of us can look at our lives and figure out, how can I be more kind intentionally today? I hope you are going to be kind to yourself, because every single one of us can get a little bit more kind in all different areas of our life. And today, I hope as we're sharing some stories, you're going to be able to have one of those little insights that you can take action on that will fundamentally shift your insight on what you can do in this life. You can build more potential for yourself. And I'm really excited to be here, Ed. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
I'm really curious. When I watched you speak at events that you've been at, I was very impressed, because like we were talking, like we started this episode. I didn't hit record. We had to start all over again. But I like how you were talking about the importance of having proper experience. It depends on your audience. It depends on the topic. It depends on what the environment is. Just being able to get on stage and speak doesn't always cut it. And I've learned that for sure. But can you tell us a little bit about the experience it takes, the training that it takes to make someone like yourself, who seems natural? Clearly you have a lot of experience, but give us some background on that, on those levels as you go.
Absolutely. Well, as someone with more than 2 decades of theater experience, it doesn't come naturally for most people. Everything in your voice, everything that you learn in storytelling is layered line upon line, here a little, there a little. As you recognize a higher level of awareness of what you sound like, how you are as far as your competency, you can start to package your message in a way that is more meaningful for your audience. When I was a young kid, I was so interested in just what does it mean to be on stage. As I've grown up, I've realized there are thousands of ways to take your message and package it for somebody else that they find benefit from it. The biggest thing that I do in my work right now is I help people be more confident, not just in their voice, but in every single area of their life. It's a holistic thing. You think about some people that get stuck in their head. They're like, well, I know what I'm talking about, but their mouth doesn't match what their content is. You have to figure out, how do I simplify this and make it meaningful for my audience? And today, all of you listeners out there, I hope that you recognize we're going to find some stories, and I'm going to make sure that you don't just hear the story, you see what it can do for you. When you take that message and then you make it meaningful, because there's a benefit attached to it, now you can make a shift. I hope that as you're listening, you're not just going to be hearing what I say, you're going to be listening to the message that the Spirit is talking to you. Because there may be something that I say that makes you think of some challenge that you're facing in your personal life or your professional life, in your health and vitality, or in your community. And as those impressions come, I want you to write them down. And as you do that, you'll be able to raise awareness on where those moments or those things that are holding you back from your confidence, where you can actually take them and create fuel from that pain or that challenge. And through the process of fixing those things intentionally, you'll be able to have this episode be an inflection point for you. And it'll literally shift your life forever if you'll take whatever that impression is, whether it's something I say or something Ed says, or an idea that you hear from the Spirit. All of those things can help you if you will take action on it, because it's not just what you hear, it's what you do with what you hear that will make all the difference.
So you mentioned a word a few minutes ago called challenge. You faced a challenge in your life. And you kind of wrapped around like a person's experience as a speaker based on a challenge or overcoming a challenge. Can you speak of any challenge or challenges you had in your life that had you go from there to where you are here? You know what I mean? Like we all
Absolutely.
do, but I'm always curious to hear from people that took them down a path.
One of the biggest challenges I had to face when I was a young man was at 19 years old. I was asked to go serve a mission for my church for 2 years. It's a service mission. And I was very willing to do that. I was excited to do it. But in the fine print, it said, oh, and you have to do it in Mandarin Chinese. And I was like, oh,
Holy cow, man.
that's a tough language. I
Well, yeah, I
studied
would
a
think
little
you can't
Spanish.
go. You can't do that.
Yeah, I studied a little Spanish in high school and I was awful. Guys, I could not conjugate. I was frustrated. I liked playing soccer. So I was like, oh, I probably should pick this up. Totally sucked at it. But when I stepped into the missionary training center, I had 3 months to get the foundation of Mandarin Chinese. I realized if I focused and I did my very best, that would be good enough. And about 2.5 months in, there was this challenge that I faced. And the biggest challenge here was I was comparing myself with other people. I saw how fast some of these elders were learning. It was like 1,500 words they'd gotten in 2.5 months. I was like, this is nuts. How did they do that? That's so amazing. And I was like looking at how much I'd progressed, maybe 800, 1,000 words in that same time frame. And I was like, I suck in comparison to them. And that negativity literally halted my progress. And I had one moment where I was almost banging my head against the keyboard and I had to like say this prayer, and it was a prayer of frustration. It was one of those where I was almost to the point where I wanted to scream at God. It's like, what am I doing here? I'm not good at this. And I started getting upset to the point that I'm like, do I need to go home? I don't think I can do this. And almost like a light from heaven shone on me, and I felt this voice that came into my soul. And he said to me, Brigham, you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. I'm not comparing you with anybody else but you. And you can do this because I called you to do this. And he reminded me of this scripture. It was with Nephi. He was this old prophet in the Book of Mormon. One of the things he was asked to do is to go back and get the scriptures from this really scary man named Laban. And he didn't know what he was supposed to do before he went, but he just knew he needed to go. And he had that spirit say, hey, go do it. And he said, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded, because I know the Lord giveth no commandment unto the children of men, unless he will prepare a way for them to accomplish the thing which he hath commanded them. And that memory of knowing that God commanded me to be there and that he will equip those who he calls filled me with joy. And I was able to look at myself and say, help me, Heavenly Father. I know I can do this. I can't do it alone. I don't want to do it alone. And after I stopped comparing myself to others and I started comparing myself to who I was yesterday, I started noticing how much I was able to gain in value of what I was saying, gain clarity, and all of those things started to shift for me because I wasn't caring about what other people were doing. I was caring about how can I do what I was called to do.
So what would when I listen to all of that, I'm thinking as a person who's really been focusing on growing what I do and how am I going to really have a good positive effect? What would you say are like the top, I don't know, the top thing, one or two things that the majority of people have to focus on to drive what they're doing, to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're at your events, what are the key things that you focus on in those events? Because I'm going to assume that when people are there, it depends on your event and what you're talking about, but people are going to want to know how to overcome what I just said. What do I do? How do I overcome what you just said when you're maybe insecure about something, right? Or you don't have the strength or the power to do it. How do people like start from the bottom and start working their way up?
Absolutely.
You
What
know what I
I'm
mean?
hearing is you want to know how to eliminate fear, anxiety, especially as a beginner, so that you can make sure that you're confident on any stage. The biggest thing that I want to make sure all of you get is there's a principle called arrows out. Where anxiety comes from is when you are having all those arrows pointing in towards yourself. You're thinking about everything that all of these other people are looking at, and you're thinking, what is it that I can do to sound cooler? What is it that I can do to sound more intelligent, or that I can demonstrate my ideas? But it is a privilege to be on any platform. And if you can shift your focus from being on you to being on the message for your audience, that's what arrows out means. You
So
have your
how do you do
message.
that? How do you do
How do you
that?
do that? This is such a
You know what I'm
great
saying? I
thing.
get now.
Mentally, think of
Yeah.
it this way. When you are feeling anxious, are you thinking, oh, what am I going to say? That's arrows in. Oh, how am I going to put this together? Arrows in. That's very different than what do they need to hear? What are the ways that I can package this so that my audience will be able to understand, be able to implement? How can I simplify this so that they won't misunderstand what I'm saying and they can understand so that they can do something with the information? That's how you very simply take your arrows from pointing at yourself and your own message to using that message to influence, to impact, and to positively inspire people to take action. Because people do not get changed in a weekend.
No.
They get changed incrementally because they took action on what happened. Every time you look at somebody's life, you say, wow, you're an overnight success. But as soon as you dig into their story, you realize it sometimes took decades for that overnight success to finally have the opportunity that they were prepared for. And that's what luck is, when opportunity meets that preparation.
So then, I don't know if I'm asking the same question, but I'm going to try to say it differently.
No
So
problem.
those are all really, really powerful tips. So when you're, I know you connect with a lot of successful people and they're smart enough to know that they need to learn how to speak better, right? For
Right.
sure. So let's go back to people that are, and it could be someone who is already a successful author or a coach or whatever they do, but even if you're a successful coach, that doesn't mean you're a successful public speaker.
Right.
But there's a lot of people nowadays, because there's so much opportunity with social media uh, to become a speaker. And you see it marketed a lot. If you want to be a speaker. So just from a very beginner stage, like what are like the what are like the best advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like sometimes some of the things you tell me, I get because I've got speaking experience. So when you talk about what's coming in, what's going out, and like when we talked about before I'd hit record, we were talking about different audiences have a different expectation or a different expectation from the speaker that's on stage. But when you're just getting started, I remember speaking in the very beginning, it was horrible. It was so uncomfortable and scary. And I know you've talked about it a little bit already, but can you give some of the people who are really brand new at this some specific things on what they would do to get started and get their confidence increased? You know?
Absolutely. I have a method that I use in my book. It's one of the very simple exercises I do. I have them do a little turn and teach. It's like a 2-minute exercise. I want you to imagine in your head something that you are absolutely amazing at. It could be swimming. It could be some hobby that you've spent decades perfecting. And I want you to think about what you would need to do to share that experience with a 3 or 4 year old. If you can simplify your experience so deeply that you can teach a young kid, that is confidence
I
because you
like that.
absolutely know
I
that
like
you
that.
can do it. And there's depth when it comes to your
Yeah.
competence.
Yeah.
And when you package it in a way that is not collegiate level, that only those that are also on that level can understand, but you package it in a way that everybody can understand, you can speak with confidence and you don't have to throw in jargon.
Yeah.
You don't have to say random words that nobody gets if they don't have a dictionary. You can use simplicity and then you can attach it to very useful frameworks that they also understand. Jesus was an amazing example of this. He would talk to his people and he would say, "You're fishermen. Come with me and I'm going to make you a fisher of men."
Oh, that's good.
That's a story. He didn't say, "Come with me and I'm going to make sure that you know how to proselyte and pontificate in a way that will allow people to come unto me." No,
Right.
he
Yeah.
actually
Right.
wanted
That
to
is such a
use
good example because
experiences.
yeah, because I mean, there's a, like Jesus never did that. He never, okay, we're going to sit down every morning. We're going to have a, here's how you speak, introduction for today. He never
Yeah.
did that. I like what you
Yeah.
just said. Go in and become fishers of men. Or there's so many, I mean, the whole New Testament is totally full of
Oh,
those
yeah.
examples.
And he was the master storyteller. He's my main
Oh, yeah.
mentor.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I absolutely love not just hearing how he phrased things, but looking at it from a communication standpoint. He didn't always answer the question directly. He said, "Let me tell you a story about that." And then you can learn from the story and you can take multiple things depending on your own level of understanding. That's the power of a story.
That's what attracts me in reading in reading the Bible, and also what attracts me in other people's books. I'm curious about your book too, the Story Hook Method. That title alone reminds me of what's that guy's name? I got his book. He teaches people how to tell stories, right? And there's different ways you can teach how to speak. But totally forgot what I was going to say. Welcome to my world. I
Oh,
would do
you're
that.
totally
I would
fine.
do that. I would
So
do that
you
on
said you
stage.
wanted to
I would do
hear
that
a
on
little
stage
bit.
and not be embarrassed. I'd be perfectly fine with that. You in the front row. Where was I?
Right. You said you wanted to hear more about the story hook method, correct?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Let me give you a quick overview.
That's what I would like.
Think
Yes.
about the last time you had something you wanted to say. You maybe even used ChatGPT or you spent a lot of time to make sure it was really beautiful on the page, but then you start to talk about it and you're like, I don't know exactly what I need to share because you have all these ideas and they're jumbled up and you don't know how to articulate it. What I do in my book is I help you simplify using a few very basic frameworks to make it so you can be confident. Whether you're talking about something that needs a lot of explanation or not, you can simplify and condense using a framework. And that framework is the story framework, STORY. S is for significant. You focus on what matters most. T is for translate. Make it mean something for your audience. O is for objective, which means we're going to be speaking to a purpose. There is a reason for us sharing this message or idea. R is for relive, which means we're going to use all the different performative ideas that we can to make this meaningful and imaginative so that people can picture that almost like a movie. And then you collect a yes with an exclamation point. Yes, I'm going to do this. You collect a decision, a commitment based on whatever your message was. That's the framework. And as you go through this, you can create instant confidence because any story can be framed in that simplicity. And as you do that, that makes it so that you can be simpler in collecting what the next step is. And that's where great movements happen, is in the action, not just in hearing the cool story. Because storytelling is a tool. It's not just talking with somebody and sharing something that was interesting. It's not just cool. It is a tool that you can
Yeah.
use to get into intentional action.
That's really something. When I think about what you're saying, I picture TED Talk speakers because they're you don't get up there and speak because I mean, you got to be good. You could be well practiced and you have experience. And then I think of speakers like podcast speakers because
Yeah.
like Megan Kelly, just there's a whole list of people who've left
Mel
major.
Robbins or different people. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're extremely popular, and their method of speaking is so like they would never get on a TEDx. But I think it's because, and this is what I want to ask you. It depends on your audience.
Yeah.
It depends on your audience. So if you're going to be on TEDx, a TEDx audience they have an expectation from you. If you're watching Joe Rogan, not everybody watches Joe Rogan, but his audience, he conducts himself the way he does that works for him. If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Yeah. What I'm hearing here is you have to tailor your message for the audience.
Yeah.
It's not just what you want to share, it's how does this message land with my audience?
Because you can't you can't make everybody happy, right? Not every you can't like there are going to be people that don't like you. It's going to be that way.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to attract everybody, but when you have a clear message, the people that are attracted to that will come. And the people that aren't, they will go away. And that's okay. It's just sorting. One of the things I've learned from doing 164 podcasts over the last 2 years was when you are very focused on one idea, because that's the way I do my podcast. I say, this is the one idea we're going to get across. And I usually have 3 or 4 talking points based on that one idea. When you're very clear on that one idea, you can go in depth. This is what a keynote is. But for brand new people, a lot of times they try and cram everything they know about the topic into those 8 or 10 or 15 minutes. And what that does is confuse you and confuse your audience. And when you have someone that's confused, they do not take action. And if they don't take action, you wasted your time and they wasted theirs. But when you can simplify your message, you can be engaging because you have intentional questions. You're able to frame it in a way that everybody understands what you're saying, one, and then knows what the next step is, number two. You're able to provide value for people because value in its simplicity is taking a question and answering it. You create value by having usefulness. That's it.
Yeah, what you're saying is just so interesting because when I think of the speakers that impact me the most, they're very simplistic.
Yeah.
They're number one, they don't speak fast like me. They don't say like me. Like when I think of like Zig Ziglar or just some people who are extremely successful and very good at what they do. There's no speed with what they do, and they're so powerful. It comes. What they're doing is really the result of everything you're talking about in preparation and knowing how to actually be prepared and have experience to come out and deliver what it is that you're trying to deliver with your time on stage. I'm looking forward to your book, the story hook method.
Yep.
When is it coming out?
It's going to be coming out in December. One of the biggest things with this book is I've been very intentional with putting it in the hands of as many influencers as I can. I've had 41 people go through it in the last month.
Nice.
Had great reviews from every single person that's listened to it. But what that did for me was be able to say, wow, this is actually something that not only do people need and they want, it is something that is heavily endorsed. Because it's one thing to say, hey, I put the work in to make it meaningful. It's another to say, did it actually produce the result that I want? Every person that's read it has seen value in it and started using it. And I think that's the thing that a great work does. It's not just information, because information is actually pretty cheap. It's implementation. And when you have something that you understand because it's clear, it's in a framework that you understand and you can recall, suddenly the value is exponentially more because in the moment, you don't want to try and figure out, okay, what were those 20 things I needed to do? One, two, it has to be simple. Otherwise, you won't be able to apply it. The simpler the method, the more you're going to be able to get out of it. So that's one of the reasons that I use mnemonics, which are memory devices to remember what those are. I use acronyms. I use plays on words. I tell a lot of really silly, funny stories, not because I couldn't have found a serious example, but because when you have a silly example, a lot of times those will stick in your mind a lot longer because there's a paradox that you have around things. And when you shift that paradox, that belief system, you're going to be able to remember it. If you don't remember it, there wasn't any value there because you won't be able to use it. And my whole thing is I want to make sure that when you read that book, you go away with multiple frameworks that you're like, oh my gosh, I can now tell a story better. I'm more confident about whatever it is I need to share because I know that this is something that they're going to get value from because I've done the work to put it in simple terms. And that's one of the biggest reasons I wrote that book. Because I want to help more people be confident on and off stage in every conversation that they ever have. Because you think about it, most of the time you're speaking, it's not on stage. That's the 1 to 5% for most people. Even professional speakers, that might only be 10% of what they do.
So what do you mean by that? Not on stage?
Every single person in business, anytime you talk to anybody, you're a speaker.
Yeah.
Your vocal impressions that you make on people on social media, connecting with people on podcasts,
Yeah.
every single time you're on camera, whether it is off the cuff or it is completely prepared, your voice is going to create an impression. And for some people, that might be the first time they ever hear you. If you don't sound confident, even though you're competent, people will be like, I'm going to go to somebody else to get that service.
Yeah.
But as soon as you can command that presence and people are like, oh, he knows what he's talking about.
And
he
that's
speaks with
interesting because
authority.
to be, what's the word you just used?
To command presence. Is that what you're talking about?
That's interesting because that can display itself in different ways, right? Because I was watching some when I'm making my breakfast, I literally have my phone on. I open up the cupboard, I stick something on. I'm usually watching YouTube shorts while I'm making my breakfast, and yeah, I just was thinking of a couple of clips that came up while you were talking of a couple of people who didn't come across like they had strength and power and confidence, but they did. You don't have to have loudness and look and act like you have that. You know what I'm saying? You have to have I know what it is, the word I'm looking for. You have to have authenticity in yourself.
Absolutely.
That's the word I'm looking for. You have to have confidence in authenticity combined. I never thought of having confidence. You have to have confidence to be authentic. That's really that is a challenge for me, learning that.
I think about this. A lot of times, if you are being vulnerable and you're sharing something that maybe isn't the best light of who you are, a lot of times, especially when we are in the beginning stages, we're like, I don't know if I dare share that because what would they think if they knew that about me? A lot of times that will endear people to you because you're willing to say, I'm not perfect, but this is what I do know, and this is how I can help you.
Yes.
People are a lot more willing to help if they know where the line is. Like, for me, I'm not your numbers guy. I don't want to be that guy. I'm not that systems minded, but I'm definitely going to be able to help you craft your voice, be able to make it so that you don't only know what you're talking about, but you sound like you know what you're talking about. You can take that page of information that you have, condense it into something that you could put on stage and people will be like, wow, that guy has authority, or that girl knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You won't be able to do one-to-many sales. You'll be able to maybe talk in a conversation with people if they have enough time with you. But when you only have 2 or 3 minutes to talk with someone, they're going to feel like they get pitch slapped if you don't feel like you've got that authority. And that's where great stories come in mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So let me ask you a question because we're coming at half an hour now. I always like to do the same thing at the end of the show, and I never like to remind any of my guests about what I'm going to do. Do you know what I'm going to do?
I don't. I'm excited
good.
though. Okay, tell me.
So, because the show is all about kindness, which it really comes from a scripture in the New Testament where Jesus said, "You are to love God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself." As a Christian, as a believer, that scripture does not mean you got to be a Christian. you got to love your neighbor as yourself. You got to love God first, yes, and then love
Hmm.
your neighbor as yourself. My point is this. Let me just get to my question. My question to you is this: can you share with us a choice on your own,
Hmm.
an act of kindness? It could be small, it could be big, it could be however it came out, that either you gave out in your life or that came in, something that you received. It could be something recent. It could be you just at the grocery store, or it could be something like major. It could be anything. Share something with us on kindness that you either gave or that you received in your life.
Absolutely. This is one that happened a few years ago. I was a missionary, and this was one of the times where I realized I needed to accept kindness because it's pretty easy for me to want to give. It's actually really fun for me to give kindness. Like even earlier this week, I got to go and read some books with kids at the bus stop for my children. Right before school, we had like 10 minutes. I was reading The Grinch and stuff, and we had a lot of fun. But when I was a missionary, I was not so apt of being willing to receive kindness. And I think this is something that's so essential for people. I had this young man. He was on exchanges with me, which means he and I were not companions, meaning we had 6 weeks that we got to spend together. We had one day that we got to go to lunch and dinner. And then he basically said, "Hey, Elder, I want to buy you lunch." And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to take that. I'm okay. I've got money. I'm okay. And he's like, "No, let me buy you lunch. Because if you don't let me buy you lunch, who gets the benefit of that? Literally nobody. I don't get the benefit of giving it to you. You don't get the benefit of eating it. And when we have that shared experience of breaking bread together and I gave it to you, it's a gift. You turning this down is like me giving you a gift and then you saying, no, thank you." So I said, all right, swallowed that pride. And then he bought me lunch. But that lesson has stuck with me like almost 15 years later.
That is a
It was
very good
huge.
one. That's
We
very
all want
good.
to accept kindness just as much as we want to give it. And
Yeah,
if we can willingly, with an open hand, accept the blessings that are coming to us
yeah,
and then give, God's going to be way more willing to give us more blessings.
absolutely, absolutely. Receiving kindness makes you a very different person.
Hmm.
I've been through the same thing. I love to be kind, but I because I was had such a negative impression of myself for so many years. When I came up with visible kindness, it was God telling me to do it, and I
Hmm.
thought, oh, that's great. But then he told me, well, I had to, number one, love him with all my heart, soul, and mind. As a believer, that was for me.
Hmm.
Love him with all my heart, soul, and mind, and then love my neighbor as yourself. He's like, Ed, you're not allowing that love to come to you, and so I had to start doing that. Thanks for sharing that. That's a very powerful story. We all need to
Yeah,
hear
you're
that.
welcome. Every single time I have the opportunity to share something that has shifted my mindset, I feel like it's just a little testimony that God is real. And that's something that I hope that you listeners are catching here. I'm not honoring myself, I'm doing my best to honor God. He helped me recognize that as not just a random lunch that someone bought for me, but the real lesson that was underlying it. There are lessons even in this conversation that we had that if you will listen, you will be able to hear what Heavenly Father wanted you to understand, and then you can do something with that impression. And I hope that our conversation was able to help you see something, some area of your life, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life, your health and vitality, or your community, that you can level up, that you can say, you know what? This was a wart in my life, and I need to figure out how to get that figured out. And we shine those lights there so that you can see and have more awareness. Because as you have higher awareness of what you want out of life, you can do something about it. And when you have the blinders on, it's it's just like having that ostrich that sticks his head in the sand and is unwilling to shift and change. We all have those moments. There's some things even in my life that I'm like, pull my head out of the sand and go figure it out. But I'm willing to shift and I'm willing to change. Like even this morning, guys, I was not wanting to get out of bed. I was like, so tired. I get up out of bed at 5 o'clock every morning so I can go to the gym. And I had to drag myself out of bed today, but I was able to do it. I got to the gym. It took me like an extra 5 or 10 minutes. But sometimes you have those little wins and you have to be kind to yourself and celebrate those little things. I was really happy after I was done working out, but during, I was like, I'm just going to get it done. I'm going to do my 33 minutes, which is my minimum. And I got 43 minutes in. So I didn't just do my minimum. That was something that was a huge win for me today. And it's very simple, but all of us can stack those tiny wins. And just like the incremental growth we were talking about earlier, if you look at your life today, you are at yesterday's next level. And if you consistently do that 1%, here a little, there a little, you level up your life, eventually looking back 18, 19 months in the past, you will not recognize your life. You'll be surrounded with different people. You'll be surrounded with more knowledge because you're reading and you're praying and you're pondering all those different things that you need to improve in your life. And in your business, you will find the things you need to do to shift and be more efficient, be able to serve at a higher level. Because as you get better, you give other people permission to do the same. And the same thing in your health and vitality. If you stack those wins, it's just like those habitual moments. As you make a little bit of progress in one area, it starts to impact the other areas of life. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to
Man,
it. Yeah.
for everyone that made it all the way to the end here and just heard what you said, I would love to hear back from the people that have heard to the end, and to hear from you, anyone that had an impact in their lives by going through this. For me, a year from now, I can't wait to see what happens, because this show will make an impact for me as well. And I'm looking forward to your book coming out.
Absolutely.
When that
I'm going to
comes
send
out,
you an
I'm gonna,
early version, Ed. I'll give you an early version.
I would love to. I'd love to do that and promote it, because it clearly you have a lot of good experience with what you do, and I say
Thank you.
that I say that from someone who doesn't have that kind of experience. But I enjoy the journey. If
Hey,
there's one thing I
let
enjoy.
me correct one thing really quick, Ed. I think you have lots of experience. One of the things that a lot of my newer clients talk about is they diminish the amazing life that they have lived. Every story that you have experienced, every podcast guest you've ever had, every conversation has within it the seeds of greatness. You do need to nourish it. You do need to let that grow. But there
Yeah,
will be some conversations that you have and even some experiences that you've had that will absolutely bless the lives of thousands of people if you know how to package it well and
yeah,
then you plant that seed. It's absolutely something that is valuable. You have dozens of years of experience
yeah.
in doing all of this that can benefit people's lives. So don't diminish yourself. Don't say,
Yeah, well, it's like,
I'm
I
no
don't know
good
if
at
you,
this. You
it's
absolutely
I've,
are.
I've mentioned it to you before. I know you've probably seen my speaker page on my website,
Uh-huh.
and there's a lot of experience that I have, but I just haven't done anything for a long time. It's been a huge gap, because life happens. Life
Totally.
happens, and so it'll be like getting started fresh. But I have experience, and
Mhm.
for me, I'm really waiting on the Lord more than anything in the direction He wants me to go, because there's so many different ways I can go. I really don't want anything other than His will for my life, which is a great place to rest in, which is where I'm at right now, and I look forward to that.
And
Yeah,
I've got another tiny little story that just popped into my head. This is one from one of my leaders. Is that okay?
yeah, absolutely.
He was talking about how he got lost in the desert and he's following a map and he's like, how do I get home? He and his son were driving and he came to a fork in the road and he's like, this isn't on the map. I don't know which one to take. He prayed about it and he felt the impression to go to the right. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go down this way. And he went down that way for 5 or 6 miles and then dead end. He was like, why would you do that, Heavenly Father? Why would you send me down the wrong way? And then his son's like, maybe that's just so that you knew which way was right by the mouth of babes. He's like, oh, you're right. Heavenly Father wanted to make sure that we had confidence moving forward. Sometimes we go down the wrong
Yeah,
path for a time so that
yeah,
we can for certain know what is right. And I think as every single one of us want to be more confident in life, we can look back at the times when we maybe didn't do the things that we wanted to. maybe we made mistakes. Because I know every single one of us, if you were like me at all, you've made some doozies, some big mistakes in your life.
Read my memoir and watch my documentary. You'll see that it's a book of mistakes.
The book of mistakes. But here's the thing. Do those mistakes happen to you, or do they happen for you?
Yeah. So the answer to that is this, because I used to ask God for years, why did things happen to me that caused me to become the person that I would? Every single one of us, he created before the foundations of the heaven and the earth. He already had that in mind. He knew where we were going to be. And so I finally came to the point where I realized that we live in a world of sin. And there's cause and effect for what happens from the sin that we give and the sin that we receive. Yeah, it's a whole nother topic. But it's great to have someone like yourself to be able to have a conversation like this, Brigham. And I want to thank you for being here. And I would love to have you back again down the road. It would be a real pleasure.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure, Ed. Thank you so much for the privilege of being on your platform.
You've been a great guest, Brigham. Thanks a lot for being here.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
You're welcome. God bless, buddy.